Why is it that Jews eat crackers instead of bread for 8 days out of the year? Matzah. This is how we do it. So what is actually the difference between matzah and bread? What do you mean by unleavened bread?
Well, you ever take a visit into a local bakery, you'll see that the bread is more of a small-sized piece of dough that gets thrown into the oven, and with time, prior to it going into the oven, and once it gets into the oven, it rises slowly with the heat that gets trapped into the dough. On the other hand, matzah is something which cannot rise.
Matzah is a flat bread as opposed to bread, normal bread, which is puffed up, it rises.
The matzah is flat, represents humility. It represents our submissiveness to God, versus the puffy, risen dough, which may represent the ego. Us egotistical people walking around thinking about ourselves the whole day, which is we tend to do, being that we're caught up in the world around us, and we have to wage war on our business partners and our business counterparts, etc. But it comes around Pesach, and it's, wait a second, take a moment. The matzah represents something which is greater than that. Well, how beautiful are we when we feel that sense of humility? We put our ego aside for that night, for those couple of days, and think about where we came from, who we are today, and where we're going to be tomorrow.
The ingredients of matzah is flour and water. There are no other ingredients in the matzah. It is called lechem, only the food of poverty. It reminds us of the fact that we were afflicted in the land of Egypt where we were slaves, and all we got to eat was the matzah, the poor man's bread. If we were to add any other ingredients into the matzah, it would be disqualified as matzah.
From when the water and the flour touch each other in the bowl till the moment it comes out of the oven, it has to be no more than 18 minutes. Once the 18 minutes hit, there was that, the rabbis instituted that is the amount of time that we would consider it for the bread to become from unleavened, from kosher, for fit for Passover, to becoming unfit.
In a professional hand matzah bakery, the entire process takes about 6 minutes. From when the water mixes with the flour until it's out of the oven, no more than 6 minutes.
So there's lots of different kind of matzah though. You see matzah in boxes, you see the handmade matzah that I guess you make here. What's the difference between all these different kind of matzahs?
Well, up till about 50 years ago, 60 years ago, people in America, or even 30 years ago, people in America only knew about the machine-made matzahs. Back in the shtetl, people would roll the dough and make their own round handmade shmur matzahs. The boxed matzah, which is usually known as the square matzahs, is machine-made matzahs. Now, being that we're so meticulous about everything that takes place on Pesach, as to making sure that not even a speck of flour or water come in contact with each other, well, people try to actually, especially for the Seder night, try to keep up with the tradition of having handmade shmur matzah. From when the time the wheat is cut in the field till the moment it's packaged out of the oven and ready to go for shipment, it's watched with the human eye. In a machine, you never know what could go on inside there. Some tiny particle of flour left under a screw, a piece, drop of water coming by. You don't want to get that, in the way as having the meticulously handmade shmur matzah, where everything is cleaned and sanded down after every run of matzah. It's very meticulous. It's what Passover is about. It's about being meticulous and understanding that not even a speck of chametz is allowed in our homes on Passover.
There is a mitzvah to eat matzah on the first and second night of the holiday. We want human participation, because when we do something for the purpose of a mitzvah, it needs to be infused with the intention, with the intent that this will be used for a mitzvah. It needs kavana in Hebrew, intent. A machine cannot have that intent, and therefore that's one of the reasons why we insist on hand matzah, at least for the Seder.
What does shmura actually mean?
Shmur means guarded, and as I mentioned, that it's guarded with the human eye from the moment it's cut right through the entire process of the baking of the matzah.
Okay, so are you actually allowed to eat the boxed matzah, the machine-made matzah, on Passover?
Well, allowed is it's a relative term. Yes, it's 100% kosher for Passover, but as Jewish people always like to do the mitzvahs and commandments par excellence, and with the highest standards. At least for the Seder night, many Jews, and as the years go on, it gets more and more popular, try to get the handmade shmur matzah for the Seder night. Albeit it's the machine-made matzah is just fine for kosher for Passover, but it's a higher standard, the shmur matzah.
So where do I go if I want to buy some matzah, some shmura matzah?
Well, locally you can't have too many complaints. Every supermarket today is carrying the shmur matzah here in Lubavitch. There's an overwhelming demand for it, both from the supermarkets and from the retail, from people just walking in. But today, in every little town across America, across the world for that matter, there are people, there's always a Lubavitch representative offering, matzah, shmur matzah, bringing it in from Israel, from Ukraine. They have big shmur matzah factories there today, New York, and even in Montreal. All over the world, the shmur matzah has become, it's the crunchier one, and people like it. Today on the internet, you can go, Google shmur matzah, and you're going to get, you can order it online. It'll be shipped to you within no time. It's not a problem today to get your hands on it. In times of old, it could have been people would travel, days and days to pick up just shmur matzah, one piece, two pieces. Today, it's at your fingertips. It's really accessible.
I'm Shoshana Israel. Matzah. That's how we do it. Very good.